Some people don't lose their lives dramatically. They miss them quietly. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because they're almost never where they actually are. Their body is in one place. Their mind is somewhere else. And if that feels uncomfortably familiar, keep listening, because the strange part is you probably don't notice it happening. You wake up, reach for your phone before your eyes fully adjust to the light. A notification, an email, a message, a headline, a video. Deadlines, conversations, more screens, more noise, more thinking. Because from the outside, everything looks normal. You showed up, answered messages, completed tasks, paid bills, made plans, maybe even laughed a few times. But underneath all of that, there's a quiet absence. Not dramatically, gradually. Because the moments that shape your life rarely announce themselves. The conversation with someone you love, the walk home after a difficult day, the sunset outside your car window, the silence before an important decision, the look on someone's face when they need you. Most people assume they'll remember those moments. But here's what nobody realizes. If your attention isn't there, you aren't either. Think about that. How many experiences have you physically lived through without truly experiencing them? How many dinners were interrupted by scrolling? How many conversations were half-heard because your mind was rehearsing what to say next? How many weekends disappeared while you waited for Monday anxiety? How many Mondays disappeared while you waited for Friday relief? And suddenly something uncomfortable starts becoming clear. You aren't living your life. You're constantly preparing to live it later. Later when work calms down. Later when you're less stressed. Later when you're more confident. Later when you finally have everything figured out. But the strange part is, later never arrives. Because when that future moment comes, your mind creates another future moment, another condition, another requirement, another reason not to be fully here. At first this feels harmless. After all, planning matters, goals matter, thinking matters, but there is a difference between using your mind and being trapped inside it. Most people never learn that difference. They spend years believing that constant thinking equals awareness. It doesn't. In fact, the opposite is often true, because awareness notices reality. Thinking replaces reality. One connects you to life. The other often distances you from it. And before you reject that idea, pay attention to what happens tonight. You'll lie in bed, the lights will be off, the room will be quiet, nothing dangerous will be happening, yet your mind may still create problems. Conversations that haven't happened, arguments that might happen, mistakes from years ago, embarrassing moments nobody else remembers, imaginary disasters, future worries, old regrets. Your body remains safe in bed, but mentally, you've traveled thousands of miles. And that's when the real problem begins, because eventually you start mistaking those mental experiences for reality itself. You start treating thoughts as facts, predictions as certainty. And this is the part most people miss. Presence isn't something you achieve once, it's something you return to, because your mind will wander. That's what minds do. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is remembering. Remembering that you are here, right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. Here. And that sounds incredibly ordinary, until you realize how rarely it happens. Think about the last truly peaceful moment you had. Not exciting. Not entertaining. Peaceful. Maybe it was a quiet morning, a walk outside, a conversation that felt real, a few seconds staring out a window. Notice something. Those moments usually have one thing in common. You weren't trying to escape them. You were inside them. Fully. And because of that, they felt larger than they actually were. A few minutes became meaningful. A simple experience became memorable. An ordinary moment became extraordinary. Not because reality changed, because your relationship to reality changed. And this creates a question most people avoid. If presence makes life feel richer, why do we resist it so much? The answer is uncomfortable. Because presence forces honesty. When you're fully present, you can't hide behind distraction. You can't scroll away from loneliness. You can't overthink your way around uncertainty. You can't numb difficult emotions with constant stimulation. You meet reality exactly as it is. And sometimes reality feels uncomfortable. Sometimes you're sad. Sometimes you're confused. Sometimes you're scared. Sometimes you're angry. Sometimes you're lost. The mind hates this. It immediately starts searching for exits. Something to watch, something to buy, something to consume, something to think about. Anything except sitting with what's already here. But here's the strange irony. The discomfort you're running from often becomes larger because you're running from it. Avoidance feeds anxiety, resistance strengthens fear, distraction prolongs confusion, and this changes everything. Because the solution isn't eliminating every difficult feeling. It's learning that you can survive them. You can sit with uncertainty. You can sit with sadness. You can sit with fear. You can sit with disappointment. And eventually something surprising happens. The emotion moves. Not because you forced it away. Because emotions were never designed to stay forever. Thoughts stay when they're fed. Feelings stay when they're resisted. Presence allows both to pass through, like weather, and suddenly life becomes lighter, not easier. Lighter. There's a difference. The problems may still exist. The responsibilities remain. The uncertainty remains. But the extra layer of suffering begins to disappear. The mental layer, the layer created by constant resistance, the layer created by fighting reality. And maybe you've felt glimpses of this before. Moments where everything became quiet, not externally, internally. Moments where you stopped chasing, stopped worrying, stopped rehearsing, stopped escaping. And for a brief second, you felt free, not because life became perfect, because you became present. The freedom was already there. You finally noticed it. Now here's where the deeper shift happens. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control everything around them, their circumstances, their future. Other people, outcomes, opinions, results. But presence reveals something shocking. Very little of that was ever under your control, and oddly enough, that's not depressing. It's liberating, because the moment you stop carrying impossible responsibilities, you become available for the only responsibility that was ever truly yours. This moment, this choice, this breath, this conversation, this action, right now, not tomorrow, not someday. And maybe that's why so many people feel exhausted. They're trying to manage entire futures, entire identities, entire lifetimes all at once. No wonder they're tired. No wonder they feel overwhelmed. No wonder they can't focus. They're carrying weight that doesn't exist yet. Meanwhile, life keeps happening without them. Moment after moment, day after day, year after year. And then one day people look back and wonder where the time went. But time didn't disappear. Attention did. The moments were always there. Presence wasn't. Sit with that for a second, because this isn't really about mindfulness, or productivity, or self-improvement. It's about whether you're willing to participate in your own life, whether you're willing to stop standing outside the experience, whether you're willing to stop treating life as something that begins later, because later is a moving target. Presence is the only place life ever happens, not eventually, not when conditions improve, not after you become someone else. This moment, the one most people overlook while searching for another. And maybe that's the realization that changes everything. You don't need a completely different life. You may need a different relationship with the life you already have, one built on attention instead of distraction, awareness instead of autopilot, presence instead of endless mental noise. Because when presence enters the room, life becomes visible again. The people, the opportunities, the beauty, the lessons, the reality that was there all along. You simply couldn't see it through the noise. So the next time you catch yourself racing ahead, planning 10 steps into the future, replaying old conversations, living everywhere except where you are. Pause long enough to notice it, not judge it. Notice it. Then come back, to the room, to the breath, to the moment, to your life. Because in the end, the quality of your life is often determined by the quality of your attention, and attention is where presence begins. If this felt a little too real, maybe that's the part you shouldn't ignore.